The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible.
Push and Google faces multi-million-dollar fine. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Friday, November 14, 2025. I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, NCB Financial Group reports a 71% profit surge for the fourth quarter of 2025 as core earnings accelerate and costs stabilize. On the regional front, Dominica's Prime Minister renews call for fairer global trade and finance rules. And over on the global stage, Google is fined 465 million euros in a landmark German antitrust case that could redefine tech regulation in Europe. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Me grew up and see my granny and save her money under her mattress.
Exactly. Your grandmother house never burned down?
No, how you reach that, so? That was a one-off thing.
That could have happened to anybody. That's why you must put your money in a financial institution and protect it.
What if the bank crash?
Well, that's where JDIC comes in.
What you mean?
JDIC is the financial safety net which provides coverage for your money in case your financial institution fails.
Explain that to me.
All right. Because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
There's so much book you need for high school.
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and a lot more money to more important things like saving.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading. Better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a powerful earnings turnaround for one of Jamaica's top financial institutions. NCB Financial Group, NCBFG, is closing 2025 with one of its strongest financial performances in recent memory, reporting a 71% jump in consolidated net profit to $36.9 billion. Addressing investors during the bank Q4 briefing earlier today, NCBFG CEO Malcolm Sadler relayed the company's financial standing for the period under review. He says net profit attributable to stockholders surged 73% to just over $23 billion, buoyed by a $15.1 billion gain from the sale of a subsidiary in Q2.
NCB Financial Group delivered a strong performance for financial year 2025, reporting consolidated net profit of $36.9 billion, representing a $15.3 billion or 71% increase over the prior year. Net profit attributable to stockholders of the company was $23.1 billion, up 73% or $9.8 billion. The results also included the net positive impact of the gain from the sale of a subsidiary in Q2, which was partially offset by certain one-off operational losses and adjustments relating to prior periods. The performance for the year was driven by growth in net operating income reaching $144.3 billion, reflecting an increase of 20% or $24.3 billion compared to the prior year.
The group also reported marked gains in productivity with stronger revenue growth outpacing expenses.
The group revenue growth was partially offset by overall operating expenses of $99.4 billion, which increased by $4.7 billion or 5%. This overall performance for the year translated into improvements in several key metrics. Return on equity improved to 12.46%, up from 8.49%, and return on assets increased to 1.56% from 0.96%. The cost-to-income ratio decreased to 64.29% from 73.56%.
And NCB Financial Group, NCBFG, is closing 2025 with a powerful multi-segment performance, with 5 of its 7 business units expanding operating profit, a result that CEO Malcolm Sadler describes as the clearest signal yet that the group's transformation strategy is taking hold. The Life, Health and Pensions division led the surge, delivering over 38 billion Jamaican dollars in operating profit, up 61%.
5 of our 7 segments delivered increased operating profits compared to the prior year. This performance underscores the resilience of our core businesses and reflects disciplined execution of our strategic priorities. Looking at Life, Health and Pensions, contribution $38.5 billion to the group's operating profit, improving by $14.5 billion or 61% over the prior year.
General Insurance also delivered a standout performance, jumping 87% to over $11 billion on stronger underwriting and improved insurance finance results.
General Insurance achieved operating profit of $11.4 billion, an increase of 87% or $5.3 billion over the prior year, mainly attributable to improved net insurance service results, lower insurance finance expenses, and higher gains from investment activities.
That was NCBFG CEO Malcolm Sadler. Jamaica Broilers Group Limited has kicked off its 2025-2026 financial year with a powerful rebound, reporting a net profit of 1.6 billion Jamaican dollars for the quarter ended August 2, 2025, a 462% surge over the Jamaican $284 million recorded a year earlier. According to the company's unaudited results, group revenue climbed 12% to Jamaican $26.2 billion, reflecting higher poultry sales across both Jamaica and the United States. The group's Jamaican operations delivered a segment result of Jamaican $2.1 billion, up 33% year-on-year, buoyed by increased demand in core poultry business. Performance in the U.S. was equally strong, with that segment's result jumping to $612 million Jamaican dollars, a $406 million improvement compared to the same period last year. Revenue from U.S. operations rose 19%, driven by stronger sales of poultry and fertile eggs. Operating profit for the quarter more than doubled to Jamaican $2.6 billion, while earnings per stock unit climbed to $1.47, up from 29 cents the prior period. The company also reported a significant increase in other income, moving from Jamaican $55 million to $487 million, aided by operational efficiencies and improved cost management. In other news, Jamaica's Producer Price Index, PPI, for manufacturing climbed 0.3% in September, led by higher food and packaging costs. In a report released on Thursday, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin says the increase was driven by a 0.7% rise in food, beverages, and tobacco category, partly offset by a dip in petroleum prices. Breaking down the data, production, processing, and preservation of meats, fish, vegetables, oils, and fats recorded the steepest gains, up 3% month-on-month, with the fruits and vegetable oils subgroup surging 15.6%. Statin attributes the movement to higher raw material, packaging, and overhead costs compounded by the depreciation of the Jamaican dollar against the US dollar. Meanwhile, prices for refined petroleum products fell 0.3%, reflecting lower crude oil prices internationally. The chemicals and chemical products and other non-metallic mineral products industries also recorded modest gains of 0.2% and 0.1% respectively. In contrast, the mining and quarrying index edged up just 0.1%, supported by bauxite and alumina processing, though the sector's annual performance was weaker, down 7% year-on-year as global alumina prices declined. We move now to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Friday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 106 stocks, of which 37 advanced, 48 declined, and 21 traded firm. Leading the winners are Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Jetcon Corporation, 138 Student Living Jamaica, and Pan Jamaica Group, while leading the losers are Jamaica Broilers Group, One Great Studio Company, Main Event Entertainment Group, and Elite Diagnostic. The main index advanced by 2,042.80 points or 0.66% to close at 311,397.97 points. The junior market index declined by 27.32 points or 0.81% to close at 3,335.70 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're looking at the term concession. In finance, a concession, also called a selling concession, refers to the portion of the underwriting spread paid to members of a selling group in a stock or bond offering. It represents the difference between the price investors pay and the amount the issuer actually receives. The total underwriting spread typically includes the management fee, selling concession, and underwriter's compensation. More broadly, a concession can also describe business arrangements involving the acquisition or leasing of assets such as property or infrastructure. In these cases, a concession agreement outlines the terms under which the rights or benefits are granted, making it a legally binding contract between the parties involved.
The market education feature was brought to you by CBX Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Okay, I just sent the money. I'll WhatsApp you the tracking number.
Thanks, Daddy. I can't wait to buy that PS5.
Listen to me. Your birthday money is not just for spending. Remember what I told your mom? Remember to open the bank account immediately after collecting the money. Your mom has her ID, TRN, proof of address, proof of income, and your school ID.
I'm not an adult yet, so Mommy will have to open the account with me.
Yes. Anyways, I'm headed back to work, so call me later. I love you guys.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has renewed calls for fairer global trading practices and reform of international financial systems that disadvantage small island economies. Speaking at a press conference on Thursday following his return from the CELAC EU summit in Colombia, Mr. Skerrit said he urged world leaders to make the global system work for the most vulnerable, not against them.
We also supported reforms to the global financial architecture to make it more just and responsive to the needs of developing nations. I stressed that small island developing states like Dominica need greater access to concessional financing and debt relief based on our vulnerabilities and exposure to climate and economic shocks. We reaffirmed our commitment to a fair, rule-based multilateral trading system under the WTO and welcomed the strengthening of trade and investment ties between Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean.
That was Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit. The Bahamas is pressing for decisive global financing and policy action to confront sea level rise, a threat it says is eroding not just its coastlines, but its economic future. Speaking at COP30, Prime Minister Philip Davis called for an ambitious global response to protect small island economies, warning that rising seas now threaten statehood, trade, and long-term investment stability.
The rising seas are not only eroding our shorelines, they're eroding our sense of security, our heritage, and our children's future. This is an existential threat to small island developing states and low-lying coastal nations. The science is clear, and the moral imperative is undeniable. The world must act with greater urgency and solidarity. We need a global response that recognizes the scale of what is at stake. The upcoming UN Sea Level Rise Summit in 2026 must deliver a truly ambitious declaration, one that upholds the principle of statehood continuity, preserves our maritime zones, and protects the rights and dignity of our people who may be displaced by climate impacts.
He also championed greater financial partnerships between governments, international institutions, and the private sector to strengthen community-led adaptation and legal resilience.
The Bahamas believes this declaration must go beyond words. It must commit the international community to a coordinated, well-financed global response. We need partnerships that bring together governments, scientific institutions, international organizations, and financial institutions to strengthen community-led adaptation, build resilience, and provide legal protections for affected states like the Bahamas.
That was Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis. Antigua and Barbuda has signed a new food import deal with Guyana aimed at lowering the cost of living and reducing reliance on North American suppliers. Government spokesperson Maurice Merchant says the partnership will bring in cheaper fruits, vegetables, and other produce for the local market, following talks between Prime Minister Gaston Brown and Guyanese President Irfan Ali at the COP30 summit in Brazil. The government has also approved a reduction in the common external tariff on essential goods, including canned proteins and infant foods, extending a 0% duty on key imports until June 2026. Officials say the initiative supports CARICOM's 25 by 2025 plan to cut the region's food import bill by a quarter, while ensuring Antiguan households benefit directly from lower prices and greater food security. And Trinidad and Tobago is emerging as a frontline geopolitical player as the United States ramps up its military operations across the Caribbean, a move that could reshape energy ties, investor sentiment, and regional diplomacy. Attorney General John Jeremy has confirmed that the U.S. 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit will intensify exercises in the country in the coming days as Washington expands a major counter-narcotics mission involving 12 warships, a nuclear-powered submarine, and roughly 14,000 troops. Port of Spain has openly backed the operation, arguing that drug and weapon flows from Venezuela are fueling gang violence and hurting economic stability at home. But that support has already triggered diplomatic blowback. Venezuela cancelled gas agreements with Trinidad and Tobago and declared Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar persona non grata, raising new questions about the future of cross-border gas development. The heightened U.S. presence comes as the global energy landscape remains volatile and Trinidad and Tobago deepens its push for investment in gas and petrochemicals. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 8 advanced, 10 declined, and 4 traded firm. Today's winners are A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, Unilever Caribbean, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and Prestige Holdings, while leading the losers are Trinidad and Tobago NGL, JMMB Group, Angostura Holdings, and Point Lissa's Industrial Port Development Corporation. Now trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index advanced by 6.41 points to close at 1,356. The Composite Index advanced by 4.35 points to close at 941.17. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.30 points to close at 69.59. The SME Index advanced by 0.70 points to close at 96.30. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Mikey, is what sweet you saw?
Yeah, dear babes. Where's Security? You ain't go party tonight?
Party? You secure your future yet? Careless.
Did you know that over time the stock market has provided a reliably high return on investments? Be sure to contact a licensed stockbroker for more information on this exciting investment opportunity.
Taking care of business, Mikey?
Yeah, Cathy. I'm securing my future. Want to come look over my stock portfolio?
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
Welcome back. In international news, Google is facing one of its toughest antitrust setbacks in Europe. A Berlin court has ordered the tech giant to pay 465 million euros to German price comparison platform Idealo after ruling that Google abused its market dominance for more than a decade. A second firm, Producto, was awarded another 107 million euros. Idealo, owned by Axel Springer, accused Google of pushing its own shopping service ahead of rivals between 2008 and 2023, distorting online competition. While Idealo had sought 3.3 billion euros, the ruling still marks one of Europe's largest damages awards tied to digital market abuse. Google says it disagrees with the ruling and will appeal, insisting its 2017 changes to search and displays created a level playing field for comparison sites. And while Europe battles big tech over market fairness, Washington is moving aggressively to secure long-term strategic resources abroad. The U.S. International Development Finance Corporation has hired Alvarez and Marshall to identify and evaluate investment opportunities tied to President Donald Trump's U.S.-Ukraine critical minerals deal. The agreement, signed in April, gives the U.S. preferential access to new Ukrainian mineral projects in exchange for American investment, part of Trump's push for returns on U.S. support to Kiev. The DFC has already seeded the U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund with $75 million, targeting mineral, energy, and infrastructure. A DFC team visited Ukraine in September, and Kiev hopes to identify 3 pilot projects within 18 months. But as geopolitical deals gain momentum, U.S. monetary policy remains a major counterweight, and at least one regional Fed president isn't ready to ease up. Dallas Federal Reserve President Lori Logan says she's unlikely to support another rate cut in December, warning inflation remains too high and is cooling too slowly. Speaking at a joint Dallas-Kansas City Fed conference, Logan said she needs convincing evidence that inflation is moving decisively towards the 2% target before backing further easing. Her stance mirrors her opposition to the Fed's October cut into the 3.75% to 4% range. Although she isn't a voting member this year, her tone underscores an internal debate. How much more monetary support can the economy handle without undermining hard-won disinflation? And finally, in the global energy and commodities arena, one of the world's most influential data providers is sharpening its identity. S&P Global has renamed its Commodity Insights division S&P Global Energy, unveiling the change at its 2025 Investor Day in New York. The move aligns the business more closely with the world's fast-changing energy landscape. The division retains its core Platts benchmarks, market intelligence, and its flagship CERAWeek conference, but now leans harder into integrated energy systems as global demand accelerates. President Dave Ernsberger says the brand reflects growing complexity across fuels, materials, logistics, and supply chains, and positions S&P Global to guide customers through rising volatility and investment shifts. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, NCBFG delivers 71% profit surge for Q4 as core earnings accelerate. Regionally, Dominica's Prime Minister renews call for fairer global trade and finance rules. And internationally, Google fined 465 million euros in landmark German antitrust case. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.